you want to go ahead and, there we go. James, do you want to go ahead and go to the sponsors page, please? Good morning. My name is Rosa Ornstein. I'm the chair of the North Texas Renewable Energy Group this year. And I want to start our membership meeting by thanking all of our supporters and sponsors, primarily Dallas College, the City of Dallas, Sustainable Systems of Texas, and Skygate Solar. Our partners and media partners in particular are Green Source DFW, Natural Awakenings, the Fort Worth Star Telegram. And then, you know, we work with a number of other groups locally. We support each other's programs and events, and we are helping each other try to move this country and our little area into the future with renewable energy, conservation, and sustainability. So we work quite a bit with the Climate Reality Project, with the Sierra Club, 350 Dallas, the North Texas Electric Auto Association, the Tesla Owners Group, the Dallas Electric Club, and Restorative Farms, which is a relatively new group that we have started working with. Thank you to all of them. We couldn't put our programs on without them, and in particular without all of the participants and our members themselves. James, could you go on to the next page, please? This is our agenda. And as usual, we start out with Lisa giving us an update on membership. Lisa?
Excuse the cat noises in the back. They smell breakfast. Anyway, welcome to everybody. I see a couple of names I don't recognize, new people. Thanks. Glad you heard about this presentation. I'm the membership coordinator for NTREG, and as we say every meeting, our meetings are free and open to the public. But that being said, there are some costs to having meetings, having the Zoom account and the solar tour that we just did. So we very much appreciate it if people will join NTREG. The annual membership cost is only $20 a year. And you can do that either by going to the NTREG site, ntreg.org, and clicking on the donate join page, or you can go to our mothership website down in Austin, the Texas Solar Energy Society, and join us through them. But again, if that's not feasible for you these days, that's fine. We exist to inform people about what's going on with renewables and energy efficiency, and someday we'll be able to meet in person again. Anyway, thanks for joining or coming this morning. And if also, if you have any questions about your membership status, you can send me a message in the chat and I'll look you up and see if you're current or if your membership is expiring anytime soon. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. As you all know, we started an internship program thanks to a grant from our mothership, the Texas Solar Energy Society. We have 3 job postings, internship job postings available on the website. We have gotten some applications from potential interns. We are seeking more. So for everybody in the meeting, if you know of any student that is interested in renewable energy, it doesn't have to be solar, if that are interested, please have them go to the NTREG website. There's a link on there for the internship applications, and we welcome more interns. We're working with 4 of the local colleges to get the opportunity information out to the students. We are starting to work with one other one and are continuing to seek to work with all the local colleges so that we can get as many interns placed. We're looking to place as many as 6 interns there was an initial deadline of September 30th for applications. We have extended that to October 15th, and there will be a continuing rolling application deadlines because we continue to get requests from companies for interns where Lisa, Ryan, and I right now are arranging so we can interview one other one. So we're expecting at least another request for a placement for an intern. So please anticipate that that's coming as well. I know over the last couple meetings, I have requested mentors because we also want to have a mentor for each intern that we place. We need mentors as well. We're preparing the guidelines for the mentors, but it's not a huge amount of energy or time on your part, but it's so that the mentors, I mean, the interns can have a mentor to visit with outside of the company where they are placed, just in case they want to talk about anything sensitive that they don't feel comfortable talking within the organization they're in, or if they want to learn more and are curious, and the mentor can provide additional information outside of the job placement where they're at. They are good paying jobs, $15 an hour, and we have taken into consideration the interns studies, so it's 8 to 10 hours a week for a 10-week program. That's my report on the internship, and I welcome, again, please spread the word, bring more interns to the table, or if you know somebody that also wants to be an employer, we're still seeking those. We need at least another 2 more of those. Thank you very much. James, can we go back to the agenda, please? James, are you there? Okay, Michael, would you just give a very short update on where we are with our community project that we undertook for this year?
Yes, thank you, Rosa. I'm Michael Fladmark. I'm a board member, also treasurer, but I headed up a special team of volunteers from our membership to support the City of Dallas's CECAP initiative, which we're lucky to have Susan doing a review and update. But we are getting ready to do our presentation. We just completed the second of 2 of our projects, which was renewable energy hubs, and taking a look and developing the technical specifications to help the city when they go out to try to develop properties within the Metroplex, and then maybe being able to step out from there, but a guideline and a template to be able to ask the right questions and get the right answers, hopefully, to be able to have those projects go forward. So we're excited. That presentation is going to be on October 21st. And I'm not going to steal any of Susan's thunder here, but we were excited to be able to participate and support the city's initiatives on this important action, which is the CECAP. So that's where we are on that.
Thank you, Michael. Before we move on to Mark Whitty giving just a brief update on the completion of the solar tour, I understand that Norel Kipple from ACES has joined us from Boulder, and we want to make sure that the big mothership gets recognized, and welcome to Norel Kipple from ACES. Thank you for joining us this morning. Mark, are you still on the phone? I know Mark was traveling and he had joined us by phone. I don't know if he's still on, so he can give us just a brief update on the completion of the solar tour. Mark? Mark, are you there?
No, he's not.
Looks like he's gone.
So I could give an update real
You
fast.
want to do that? Okay,
Sure.
fair enough.
So we held our 12th annual solar home tour last Saturday, and it was virtual again this year due to COVID. We had some great hosts. We actually had hosts from the previous year that were able to participate, plus a couple new ones, and it was well received. We wish we'd had more attendance, but I think part of it is that everyone is COVID respectful, and but videos were captured, questions were answered and recorded as well, and that information will be posted. We're going through and editing those now, but they will be posted and live and accessible on our website in the near future. So thank you to all of our hosts and all of our sponsors for making this last tour be a successful one. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The next part of our meeting, we usually have announcements. So if any of the members have an announcement to make about an upcoming sustainability or renewable energy event, please unmute yourself and make the announcement. I don't see anybody doing that.
Hey, Rosa,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Sue. And I'll have this as part of my presentation as well. But we are in the midst of attaining commissioners for the newly formed Environmental Commission. 6 of our 15 positions are still open. You need to be a resident of Dallas with at least background and or 2 years experience in environmental fields and or neighborhood advocacy. If you know of anyone that has those qualifications and doesn't have conflicts of interest with their normal employment, please send them my direction.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susan. I also want to mention that the Dallas College, one of our terawatt sponsor for the DFW Solar Tour, is having its Sustainability Summit coming up in November. Please also mark on your calendars. I think it's November 5th, but it's coming up, and they usually have really good presentations on sustainability. And I know they want to focus on that, plus electric cars. Please join them as well. I know about those two. Any guests that are here that are not members but wish to make an announcement, please unmute yourself and make your announcement. I don't see or hear anybody doing that. I haven't seen Molly Brook yet on our participants list yet, but Climate Reality Project is a group that we work with closely. Their meetings are the 3rd Saturday of the month at 1 p.m. And we've included the link to their website on the agenda here, as you can see. So if you're continuing to be interested in renewables and sustainability and the future environment of our country, please join them as well on the 3rd Saturday of the month. Michael, let me turn it over to you to present Susan, and so that Susan can begin her presentation. We're looking forward to it. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Rosa. I'm excited to be able to present another pretty face, which is Susan Alvarez.
Aw.
She's been a long-term friend of NTREG, as well. With her friendship has come the support of the city of Dallas. And we just really appreciate the fact that she is willing to take the time to come and share what the city of Dallas is up to, because they are doing some very, very important things to go forward to make Dallas a better city for all of its citizens, to be able to live in the future. And so what I'm talking about is the CECAP, and that's what she's going to be talking about. But let me tell you a little bit about her, besides I think she's a great lady, is that she's the Assistant Director of the City of Dallas of Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. It's a lot. She has a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering with a minor in Geology from Rice University and a postgraduate work in water resources. She's a licensed professional engineer in Texas and 5 other Western states. She's also a certified floodplain manager and master naturalist in Texas. She brings over 40 years experience in broad practical experience in civil and environmental planning, engineering, and management. She's currently focused on implementing CECAP, which is Comprehensive Environmental and Climate Action Plan. It's the city's participation in the City Business Climate Alliance, and she was recently selected to author the team for the Southern Great Plains chapter of the 5th National Climate Assessment. She's a prolific writer. She's well respected in industry and across the nation. So thank you, Susan, for being with us today. And I turn it over to you.
I'm really, really excited to be here. Thanks for your kind remarks, but it goes both ways. The city could not do what they're doing on the CECAP without the support and partnerships with organizations like NTREG. And so I initially joined because as a civil engineer, I didn't know very much about the building envelope or the power within it. And I needed to learn as much as I could, as quickly as I could. And y'all have been really helpful towards my education. And so the love goes both ways. And I'm really excited to be here today to share what we're doing on the CECAP. The title of my presentation goes back to what both the residents and council told us. Dallas loves doing plans, and we have lots of really beautiful plans with photographs and graphics, but they typically don't get implemented. And our instructions for everyone were, you guys have to have a doable, measurable plan, not just another pretty plan on the shelf. And so moving forward, I want to share what we've done thus far. I think we're making great progress on our plan, but I will just say right up front, it's with a lot of support from the community, a lot of help from the community, and that is wholly recognized and appreciated. Next slide. So what I'm going to be sharing today is you guys are getting like hot off the presses. We're actually working with about 19 different other departments to implement this plan, in addition to external partnerships, other agencies, et cetera. So when we're looking at how did we do last year and looking at our metrics, takes a little bit of time to pull together the data. So today I'm going to share some of the information we provided council last week on what we're planning to do next year, and also some of the highlights, stuff we actually got done over the previous year. I want to talk a little bit about adaptive management because we are going to be updating the plan this year. And I'm going to talk a little bit of the performance management metrics that we are also working under. So next slide. One of the important things, and I include this in just about every presentation I do, different cities do their climate plans different ways. Some focus on emissions reduction, and they call it a carbon reduction plan. Some focus on adaptation. Some folks do a climate equity plan as a separate plan. And some folks look at environmental planning in a whole different lens. When we were doing our planning, we realized there was a lot of synergy between the different areas. And so we've got all three. It really is a comprehensive plan. The other thing that we recognized both in conversations with our own community and with other cities and other places is we have a real opportunity to put equity at the forefront of everything we're doing. Because as we implement this plan, and this is a worldwide challenge. The folks that are the least well adapted to be able to deal with changes in climate are the ones that are going to be impacted the most. And so for this plan to really be effective, we need to focus on those frontline communities, on those communities of color, children, elders, those people that will most likely experience the worst of what is to come. We need to try to help them first. And so we've got equity at the core. I will tell you the city does have an equity policy and an equity metric. We use the Government Alliance of Racial Equity format. Unfortunately, and it is crazy to me, but there is no category for racial justice relative to environmental justice. And so while we're doing a whole lot of work in equity, it doesn't get measured by our equity program because it's outside of the straight social categories that they're measuring. Doesn't matter, we're still going to do it, but I'm just telling you, it doesn't show up very well in some of the city's metrics. Next slide, please. So our first year out of the gate is also going to be like our second year out of the gate. And that is, we're focusing on building capacity. We're doing the guiding plans with the more detailed action. We're doing a lot of education and outreach. We're expanding partnerships. We're piloting things to make sure it works. Dallas is a big city. And so before we roll some of this stuff out, we want to get the kinks out so that we're making the best use of public money. So we're still in that capacity building area, but it's okay. We're making fabulous projects. We're making really good progress. And I'm really pleased with how we are doing as far as implementing the plan itself. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that we had 19 plus departments. We developed a group that we're calling LEAF, Leading Environmental Action Forward. We have LEAFers that belong to it, but it is people with decision-making authority within the departments they're working with towards implementing the CECAP. That way there's no surprises. That way we can coordinate what we're doing in the CECAP with the ongoing efforts in these other departments. And it just really helps with coordination, and it helps with measurement of progress and reporting as well. Last year we reported quarterly because we didn't want to be too much of a pain for our friends in the other departments. The city manager's office has requested that we shift to monthly. And so we're making that shift. We've made some changes in the plan along that line just to make it easier to manage the data from 19 departments and several hundred different milestones. Next slide, please. Some of you may recognize these two ladies. They are basically the steel hand in the velvet glove that has pushed us forward. Honorable Sandy Grayson was with the city council for, I think, something crazy like 16 years. She very graciously offered to lead our Environment and Sustainability Task Force. And then Rita Beving with Public Citizen was the co-chair of that group. These two ladies were extremely helpful in getting our Environment and Sustainability Task Force on task. And over the last year, they advised on that initial implementation plan. And then we developed and council approved the city ordinance forming a new commission. Next slide, please. And that would be the Environmental Commission. They voted that in this April. There are 15 voting members and 8 non-voting technical experts, which is 1 per CECAP goal. Several of the task force members, including NTREG's Michael Martin, served on the task force and very bravely volunteered to go ahead and serve on the Environmental Commission. We are grateful to them for their assistance. This is where, if you know of people In particular, we would like the commission to reflect the community. But we're looking for, and the ordinance spells it out, people with environmental background and or identified social advocacy for their neighborhoods, so that this commission has an understanding of localized environmental concerns, as well as an understanding of the environmental science behind what it is that we're doing. The commission will meet monthly. Typically, it'll be the second Friday from 1 to 3, beginning in November. One of the other things that came out when we were forming this group is the city had an environmental health committee way back when, or it may have been a commission. We wanted to bring back that function so that when things come up, we have a standing committee that can tackle those special issues, but we didn't necessarily want to have two different commissions that may be advising differently. And so we formed a standing committee within the Environmental Commission to address environmental health issues as they come up. That committee, there is one more category of members, and that is folks with public health experience as defined by the CDC. The 2 public health members, of which we have one, will be leading that environmental health committee, and I anticipate that we will pull some additional community members to serve on that committee. So those are appointments that are 2 years. If you are interested or know of somebody that you think would be really good, please let me know. The council members are the ones that are making these appointments, but we don't have a quorum yet. And I would really like to get to the point where we can stand the commission up and have them start weighing in on the things that we're doing moving forward. Next slide, please. One of the other things that comes up is when we did our initial greenhouse gas inventory, we were so proud of ourselves for reducing our own emissions by about 70%. And then we looked at the emissions from the 385 square miles that is the city of Dallas, and the city municipal emissions are only about 2 to 3% of the city of Dallas. The city of Dallas is ultimately only about 20 to 25% of the emissions in the region. And so we're working with what was the Sustainability Committee at the COG to do regional integration of sustainability efforts, working with the other local cities that have joined this group to do a regional greenhouse gas inventory. We're working under the ICLEI format on that, and then ultimately a regional planning effort. It may be called sustainability. Some of the cities in the Metroplex can't say the C word, but that's okay. If we get to the end, the same end goal, I'm happy with it. But I just wanted to let you know that we are working with other local cities on this. This is not a Dallas only led thing. Next slide. And I talked a little bit about our LEAF group. And one of the big things with that LEAF group is to coordinate our other plans so that the planning efforts from the different departments are consistent. And I will tell you that more and more when we take things to council, even things that are not in my world, the council members are asking, how does this relate to CECAP? And so I'm thrilled that things are moving forward that way. And that's a great question that they're asking. But these are plans that were done all within the last year that will help us move the CECAP forward because they're more detailed than the CECAP. The CECAP has 8 areas, but it's hard to really get into the brass roots. How do we move things forward? So these plans are built to be all measurable, built to be moving things forward collectively for the city of Dallas. Next slide, please. So this was our implementation plan for last year. We had a goal for the city to complete. Initially, the city manager wanted us to complete the entire 30-year plan or 92% of it in the first year out of the gate. That is a wonderful goal, but not doable. And so we suggested that we can do some of those beginning milestones. And we did identify things in 48 of the 97 actions in the plan. So about half the plan we're already working on. And we've done steps towards completing those actions that we're measuring as milestones. I am really happy to say we completed 93%. Our goal was 92 of those actions. And we've made really good progress. There were 2 that were not started. And they're really outside of the city's realm. One of them was the high-speed rail project. And so overall, we are moving things forward. Next slide, please. And then I need to give a shout out to Katie Evans in our group. She has been instrumental in working with the departments towards the implementation plan for this next year. One of the things that we found, and it was kind of interesting, we were trying to be kinder and nicer and not push departments into doing more than they could do. But what we found is they really wanted to, I don't know if it's FOMO, fear of missing out, or what, but we had departments like code stepping forward and saying, hey, wait a minute, we're doing stuff that should be in your plan. So we're not going to turn anybody away. We're not going to say, no, you can't do that. We already have too many actions in the plan. So we're moving forward with 73 actions of the 97 in the next year. We have 26 new actions in addition to what we started with. And then we have 89 things that we're moving forward as we go. So we went from, I think, 136 milestones in last year's plan to 263 milestones. So significant growth. I love that people were stepping up and volunteering things that they were doing that they wanted to include in the plan. That makes our job a whole lot easier. One of the other reasons for growth, though, is in going from quarterly to monthly reporting. We have several departments that are working together on some of the actions in the plan, and they were trying to report on the same line in our database. And so we split them apart, both to make it easier for the departments and easier on us to do the monthly. And so part of the growth that you see in the number of milestones relates to disaggregating the departmental efforts. Next slide. So what exactly is in this plan? What I'm going to run through quickly and try not to be too boring is I'm going to go through the 8 areas that we have in the plan, give you the highlights, what we accomplished, the big deal stuff that we're really proud of from last year, and then what we're looking at doing next year. And so I'll try, as I said, I'll try not to be too boring. I've highlighted in green some of the things where council really wants us to focus. So last year, one of the things that I am really excited about is the new Vickery Park Library. The reason I'm excited about this building, and it did get an AIA award, there is the stuff you can't see. Curved walls are more resistant to straight line winds, which is what the insurance industry indicates is our biggest storm risk in North Texas. This library has curved walls. It has continuous insulation. On site, it has green infrastructure that you can't really see very well, native plants, and then tucked up on the roof are 180 solar panels. And so this is probably the city's greenest building. We do have a green building code right now, but it's not net zero. But what I have found is that my friends that are architects have signed on to an Architecture 2030 pledge, where all of the things that they're designing are going to be net zero by the year 2030. This building is one of the first ones out of the gate. So I'm really excited about that. Some of the other things is my friends in the facilities group have been doing energy audits. They will be presenting on the results of those audits at our next council meeting, the first Monday in November. They've done a lot of good work towards setting us up for greater energy efficiency for city buildings and identifying those buildings that would be good candidates to consider for either energy hubs and or one of the other things that we're looking at post Snowmageddon is resilience hubs, places where we can keep the lights and the water running even if it's 5 degrees. So we're really excited about that. One of the things that landed on my plate, and it's going to be a challenge, I think, and I may be reaching out for help, is we got a request from our bond office for some net zero specifications that they can use in the 2022 facility bond program. That's fabulous. I'm doing backflips. Of course, I said, yes, I'll help you. But then I started rooting around and I realized that there is no set specs yet. And neither our local nor our regional specifications for buildings are there. And so I can put it in on our own facility bond program, but I'm going to need some coordination. I'm going to need some help on that regional effort to get our design codes so that they're a little closer to net zero. Next slide. So new actions. We are going to be doing more education for building owners on what they can do towards greater energy efficiency. We are implementing, as I said, the weatherization program, building on some of the stuff we've done. And then my friends in the planning department, as part of their work looking at parking requirements relative to policy encouraging other modes of transportation, have started looking at urban greening factors. For those of you that know what it is, there's something called biophilia, which is where you're basically incorporating a lot more of the natural setting into your buildings. And we're looking at things like that relative to overall development policy. And so it was on my radar for something we might be able to do in about 15 years. If they're looking at it now, makes my heart go pity pat. I'm really excited about the efforts they're doing. Next slide. So highlights for the following year, and I know there's going to be some stuff that gets some of you guys excited. We're looking at implementing some resilience hubs. The slash, because it really is different, is also looking at implementing energy hubs. We're going to be continuing outreach and education. We did get additional funding from the city council this year to basically move forward to get more residents into weatherized homes. Snowmageddon was a lessons learned all the way around. Dallas County has a program, but we want to be able to take that a little bit farther. And so we'll see how that goes. But that's a very new program. We're also looking at building code amendments to support solar PV and EV charging. The U.S. Department of Energy has a fabulous Soul Smart program. It's kind of a mouthful for solar friendly cities. Several of the neighboring cities are already in it. Our permitting group is really struggling right now. And so even though using the solar app for solar permitting is great, if they're struggling to get their permits, average time under 6 months, me skipping in and saying, hey, what could you do? Can you do your solar permits in 3 days? They're not there yet. And I'm hoping that we can get them there this year. It would really help towards getting more solar implemented. Next slide, please. So the next is energy. Last year, we worked in 9 of the 11. We are working with NTREG on that resilience hub criteria and on the renewable energy hub as well. We did complete a community solar study under a grant with the Department of Energy. And we did end up putting solar on some low-income housing projects, both single-family residential and multifamily. And so we're excited about providing solar as a part of our affordable housing. I think it makes a whole lot of sense because not only is the home affordable, but moving forward, the power for that home becomes more affordable. We did develop a request for competitive sealed proposal for community solar out of the recommendation in the Department of Energy report. We learned some valuable lessons learned. And we'll be developing some guidelines moving forward from those lessons learned on that. Next slide, please. So new this year, we are working towards greater reliability in our local grid, working with Encore and some of the other providers. We are looking at energy storage. Our facilities group did get funding towards storage, and it gets into evaluating where it makes the most sense to implement it. And then also working with our friends at Dallas College and Green Careers Dallas to help train local workforce. That's why I'm really excited about the internship that NTREG has. It's right in line with what we're wanting to do, which is to get more folks trained for those green jobs. Next slide. So again, the green stuff is where we're getting pushed from council. There's the Soul Smart designation. We have an existing green energy policy, but we're looking at expanding what we're doing under that policy. One of the things that we found in our work on trying to get community solar going is that the Deepwood landfill is actually zoned for residential development. That should never happen there. It is a landfill. And we were going to be about to get 15 megawatts of power on that site. Our overall goal for local power generation in North Texas is 3,700 megawatts. And so we need to take a step back and be more strategic on where all we can and should put community solar or a solar farm moving forward. And so that is one of the things we're looking at. The other thing that's we are also working on is when our friends in the environmental community came forward with some concerns about putting solar right next to the Trinity River Audubon Center, we took a step back and said, you know what, you're right. And so we, the Audubon, we're working with the Nature Conservancy, Sierra Club, and Lucy Stolzenberg, who was the former executive director for Texas Solar Energy Society, came forward. We now understand that Texas is one of the few states that doesn't have best management practices for implementing pollinator or other habitat in and around solar facilities. And so we're working on those best management practices. Once we have the strategies of how we're going to get to 3,700 megawatts of solar in North Texas, and we get those BMPs, then we will probably reissue a new request for proposals to work along that line. So we pulled the proposal. We have some work with our attorneys relative to the deal, if you would, on how do we shape the business plan for a community solar program going forward. We also are working actively towards identifying the ways of doing a solar facility in an environmentally and habitat friendly way. So those are, in my mind, probably the most critical things we're doing under energy for next year. Next slide. So transportation is all, they got a lot done this year too. And so a lot of that is being done with my friends in transportation, but we also worked with my friends in fleet. We did adopt a strategic mobility plan that also sustains the work that we're doing in CECAP. It is one of those that when they brought it forward, council said, well, how does this align with CECAP? And it made them line it out. We also we have a fleet electrification study under contract with the U.S. Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Lab. Some people think that we should just snap our fingers and have it be done. I don't know that they understand the depth that we're taking with this. We're looking at existing fleet use. We've got GPS on the vehicles. We're doing route studies. We're looking at function, and we're working with the departments that use our fleet to make sure that we can electrify our fleet in a way that still supports the service departments that they're working with. So we are actively using VW settlement funding and rolling out public chargers. We're working with our friends on DART to redesign their bus routes. We'll see how that works. And then we're working with our folks in planning relative to updating our comprehensive land use study. And also around that, working with DART on transit-oriented design. Next slide. So it's a lot. We're building on that. And these are the new actions that we're adding to that plan for this year. A lot of it is in and around micromobility. Next slide. One of the challenges with micromobility is from that equity lens. A lot of our neighborhoods that could benefit from micromobility don't have the infrastructure. There's no sidewalk, there's no shoulder where it's really safe to be on a bike or a scooter. And so we're working with Public Works to address some of those baseline issues. Okay, next slide. So that's part of what we've got. We should bring forward the recommendations from fleet electrification. I'm anticipating that's going to be spring of next year when we get that gelled with concrete recommendations. That's just in time for us to pull that information into budgeting for next year. I have gently encouraged my own department. Our air quality folks are funded by TCEQ. I've strongly suggested that we should be walking the talk, particularly for our air quality folks. And so we'll see if we can get them to electrify a little sooner. With the state funding, that may make it challenging. One of the other things is that my friends in Public Works are updating the bike plan, and they got funding for 18+ bike lane miles. And so that is going to be helpful towards regional goals of reducing our single occupancy vehicle travel by 20%. Our COG did that last, I guess it was towards the early part of fall, surprised us. That is well in advance of the CECAP goals, but it is in line with the finding that the North Texas region is going to severe non-attainment. And so we have to do something. All of the things in the CECAP support the air quality goals that we as a region have. And so what this is in effect is our North Central Texas Council of Governments helping us by pushing the envelope on some of the things that we need to do within our transportation realm. Next slide. Zero waste is the one that everybody relates to. What we have done so far this year, they completed 9 out of the 10 milestones in 7 of the 9 actions within this section of the plan. So we have been looking at source reduction, increased recycling, and implementing composting pilots. One of the big deals, except most people haven't caught on that it's a big deal, as we worked with our procurement office to implement a sustainable procurement program. That includes not just environmental challenges, but things like human trafficking, slave and children that are in labor situations, It is very widespread and it got approved. And so I'm really excited about that. It really is going to be sustainably purchased moving forward. We're doing some piloting on that. We are working with sanitation to split up the bulky waste from the vegetative waste, real example of what not to do in this photo. And we are working with them on updating the local solid waste management plan. Next slides. So we have a new director in sanitation, and he is looking at evaluating electric waste collection trucks, which is something that the previous director wasn't very excited about. The other thing that I'm really excited about is this is where code came forward and said, hey guys, we're doing a bunch of stuff on litter and illegal dumping. We need to join your plan, please. And so we've added them into our fund. Next slide, please. So some of our initiatives, we've got a bulk and brush pilot right now in 6 different areas of the city, looking at exploring brush diversion. Our organic materials related to woody vegetation comprise about 40% of our waste load. And so if we are able to successfully divert this material, mulch it, compost it, use it in all kinds of other ways other than landfill, it significantly helps our diversion rate on the waste that we're putting into the landfill. We also have a compost pilot that we got a grant for from EPA, looking at food waste. And so I'm excited about those 2 initiatives that we're adding into the mix for next year. Next slide, please. Dallas Water Utilities is kind of our overachiever on this plan. There's some crazy like 50 actions in this sector of the plan. Most are based on existing plans that they are already implementing. And so most of the actions, both for 2021 and 21-22, relate to those ongoing things that they're doing, quite frankly, under a regulatory lens. And towards their role as a regional water supplier. Next slide, please. So a lot of it is continued. You'll see continue. It's all work that we're doing. This photo is actually what we call big text. It is the tunnel boring machine that is being done for the Mill Peak project. It should be finished within the next year. Will help provide an outfall and improve drainage for, I would say, most of East Dallas. And it will help. A lot of that area has older infrastructure and undersized infrastructure. And this provides the outfall so that we can start addressing some of the flood vulnerability that area currently has. Next slide, please. So this is my favorite, and that is our ecosystems and green spaces. We've got 7 of the 9 actions in this part of the plan underway. One of the big things, and this is one of those where the plan drives more detailed actions. We did get the Dallas Urban Forestry Master Plan adopted this year. That's a plan that we worked on with Texas Trees Foundation. It has a whole lot of things for growing and protecting our existing canopy. I think probably one of the next steps under that plan will be to develop a management plan, which is to take care of the trees we have. That said, we have done quite a bit of work with our water utilities, the Development Services Department that has our reforestation fund, Public Works, Parks, and Planning have like their own little work group now. I think they got worried that I was going to take over forestry, and so they're doing it themselves, which is great. So they've started doing a tree inventory. There is a great new Dallas forestry website that has a lot of the activities and a lot of good information related to what they're doing. We are under threat from a tiny little insect that does a lot of damage. It's the emerald ash borer. It's an insect that's been found in Denton County, and I believe Tarrant County. We have traps out. We have not yet seen it here in Dallas, but we've been working with the Texas Forest Service on what to do if we do. Melon, this last bullet is what you've been looking for. Parks did a sustainable landscape equipment pilot, which is to use electric landscaping equipment. They did it in 6 of their districts. We'll be using the results of that pilot towards policy implementation on 2-stroke motors in landscape equipment. One of the other things that we did under this realm that is really helpful, actually in the drainage realm, is right now the city has about 3.6 billion with a B in unmet drainage needs. Every 5 years, we do 50 to 100 million with an M in bonded drainage improvements. At this rate and with increased rainfall, we're never going to get there. We worked with the Nature Conservancy and Texas A&M they basically did modeling of the entire city under a future weather scenario to see where we could get the most bang from the buck from adding green infrastructure, things like bioswales, like cisterns, like wet and dry ponds, to increase the storage and slow down the water coming off of our built environment. This is enormously helpful as we look towards where can we more cost effectively get some drainage relief without having to do gray infrastructure. And so this is some work that we did under the green section that helps our blue section enormously. Next slide, please. So new is to increase and improve access to green space. This is where my friends in planning can help when we're looking at greening factors. It's in another area, but a lot of our actions cross over. Next slide, please. So highlights for the next year is to continue promoting tree planting. For those of you that are familiar with the program, Branch Out Dallas, we give out Texas native trees on Texas Arbor Day, which is the first weekend in November. It is back this year. And so I'm really excited about that. We are also continuing some of the other programs we're doing, like Cool Schools, like Branching Out Dallas, which adds trees to parks. One of the things that we did over the last year that was very quietly done, but we had the retree effort, which was to repair the damage to the forest, urban forest that we had from the tornadoes. So we've done some replanting post-storm as well. Again, Melon, bottom green bullet, explore landscape equipment policy. One of the challenges with implementing policy, and we've got to take a look at how to address it, is one of equity. Not everyone and a lot of our landscapers are not able to go out and buy new electric equipment. So we're going to have to figure out, if we go with a policy like that, how we can mitigate the impact to some of our lower income folks that are working in the world of landscaping. So I'm just putting that out there. And I don't know what we're going to do yet. So next slide, please. This is another one that I'm pretty excited about. It's not coming along as quickly as I would like, but it's moving. And that's all communities have access to healthy local food. We knew when we did the CECAP that we had areas in Dallas that were food deserts. What we didn't know until COVID hit was that we also had thousands of families that are one paycheck away from a food line. And so we know that our food supply chain is vulnerable. And so it goes beyond really just food deserts to looking at how can we get greater local production? How can we make our food supply more resilient to stressors, be they natural or not? So So that's kind of some lessons. We learned lots of lessons in COVID, but that was one of the big ones. So we have initiated some healthy food procurements. We have one on the street right now. It is a pilot study primarily for local firms to do healthy food for city events. And so if you know, Break Bread, Break Borders comes to mind. There's some other firms that are doing social good in addition to being in business. If you know folks like that, that may have an interest in providing the city with healthier foods for our own internal events, let me know. We have initiated a food advisory council. What we at the city think people want might not be what the people in the realm of food want. We've got neighborhood advocates. We've got people from grocery, people from supply chains, people from the restaurant business, people from local farms, and people that are doing gleaning and redistribution of food. So it's a pretty wide-ranging council, and we're hoping to have their input into the comprehensive food and urban ag plan that we just started. We have the official kickoff with our consultant next week. We just got an EPA grant for food waste, which I'm pretty excited about. And then we've supported hundreds of neighborhood school and church community gardens over the last year. Next slide. So we're working with DART and other transportation organizations to see what options we might have to connect people with food. We're working with they call it the Office of Community Care, but it's basically our WIC program on ways of getting food, again, to people with low access to food. And we're looking at expanding some of our food diversion programs. Those are new for this year. Next slide. One of the other things that we found is we started diving into and talking to people with these community gardens is sometimes the city is their own worst enemy. And we've got a bunch of rules on the book right now that make it really hard for people to grow local food for personal or commercial use. And so one of the things in the urban ag plan is to look at how do we fix that. And so we may need to do some code amendments to make it easier for us to have local food. The rest of this I've already talked about, so I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is the other one that I'm really proud of our work in. When we initially went to the neighborhoods, when we were developing the CECAP, we had 7 goals, which is what I've talked about thus far. And the feedback we got was, oh, that's great, but you didn't address air quality. So add a goal for air quality. And we did a goal for air quality. The end goal is compliance with the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for all analites. And we're struggling because it's not something that we have total control over. But I am very excited that all of the actions that we have in the plan have been implemented. We worked with TCEQ for a new TCEQ air quality monitoring site in South Dallas. We have implemented the Breathe Easy Dallas non-regulatory air quality monitors. We've got those along safe routes to school in 9 locations, and then we have 3 monitors in the Texas Medical Center. We are working with the COGS, Air North Texas Communication Group, and then we have done a lot of work of industrial sites, sites with existing state or federal environmental permitting. Looks like I've got a typo on my slide, oh well. But we did a lot of work identifying where we have potential environmental concerns relative to sensitive receptors like neighborhoods, schools, churches, etc. We have worked with our planning and urban design group on that exercise so that this information can be considered as they update the comprehensive land use plan. It's the first time that work has ever been done in supporting land use planning. Don't know why, but it's critically important, and I'm really proud of the work we've done on that. Next slide, please. So in the next year, we're going to continue supporting Air North Texas. A lot of you have attended Clean Air Action Day. That's an ongoing thing. We will be doing that again. We're working with TCEQ to expand the network. We're also working on getting that data into a place where people can more easily get it. It's online right now, but it's not easy to find. And so we're hoping to kind of do our own air quality site. The other thing that I'm really excited about is we got an environmental justice grant for additional non-regulatory monitors for zip code 75211 and 75212, which is West Dallas, an area with an environmental justice history. And so we've got 5 more monitors that will be working with that community to implement. We will be expanding the data platform again so that people can see the data. And then council gave us $1 million in American Rescue Act funding to expand the non-regulatory air quality monitoring citywide. And so I'm really excited about that because that will give us a better handle on what's going on locally. And the reason I think that's important is the photo on this slide is at the X-Line Recreation Center, which is right next to a school where they have over 28.5% absenteeism from asthma. And as we looked at the data from this particular station, we noticed some anomalies when looking at this data versus the regional data. I had been out at the site checking on some things, and Dallas Water Utilities had a water line under construction. These monitors are sensitive enough, they're picking that up. It was not really dusty, but there was active construction. And so I think we're going to have much better data at the local level to help with decision making. And I think that's going to be important. The other thing I'll mention is on the environmental justice grant, we're working with both Parkland and Children's Hospital and Shamara Norris with Positive Breathing Asthma Chasers to develop bilingual outreach and education materials relative to air quality that can be used in those schools that have a lot of kids that could benefit from interventions. We're also working with Texas Trees and the Nature Conservancy on implementing nature-based solutions along some of these routes to school. Hopefully it'll give us the information to know what we can do to improve local air quality. And I'm really excited about the work we're doing here because I think this is probably where we have the most opportunity from an environmental justice standpoint to fix things. So with that, next slide. So a lot of people are worried about what are we doing relative to changing policy. Council even asked, you know, what policy recommendations are you going to be bringing forward? In the plan that will be online probably in a couple of weeks, because we're picking up some of the things that council wants us to complete. We highlighted in green those things that are going to involve policy discussions going forward. To be very clear, our office does not set policy. We provide the information for that consideration by city council, and then we implement it going forward. But the things that I'm looking for, that I anticipate coming forward, we have a green building policy that requires buildings over 10,000 square feet to be LEED certifiable. I suspect we're going to take that forward and make it net zero construction, which is beyond where LEED certifiable is right now. I anticipate building code updates. In particular, we want building code updates that support solar, support EV charging, support greater energy efficiency. The development code updates relative to reducing parking and implementing site greening is huge. It should be a benefit to the developers because they're doing less hardscape, which is more expensive. But we'll see. The fleet conversion, again, that's a policy decision. And I believe our council is there, and I believe we will be making those changes. But these are all things that are going to be coming forward this year. And it could be that y'all may want to encourage the city to make some of these policy decisions going forward. Next slide. And then the other question we got is just how much are we spending on CECAP? So I did a quick glance through the latest version of our budget. It is not with the 40 different amendments, and it does not include staff that are working on these, nor does it include the billions that are in Dallas water utilities towards basically ensuring we have adequate water supply over 100 years, and that we have relief from drought, and we have some level of protection from flooding. So this is a very, I would say it's conservative low, but this is what we've got in our budget this year, which is realistically a pretty decent budget. And I think it will help us move things forward over time. Next slide, please. One of the other questions is, Melon, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, alerted me that we needed to update the CECAP because we had a council member that's no longer a council member listed. So the plan was written consistent with the Paris Accord to be updated every 2 to 3 years. But we're updating based on an update to our greenhouse gas inventory. We want to use data to show if we're on the right track towards an ultimate net zero on emissions over time. And so we are working with the National Renewable Energy Lab. We're using the ICLEI format. We're updating the inventory. Originally, the inventory used in the plan was 2015 data. That study was completed in, I think, 2018. We were going to use 2020, except that the 2020 data is not going to be representative of a normal year. And so we're using 2019 data. We should have that inventory with the trending necessary to allow an understanding of what we need to do with the plan. I'm anticipating this spring. So as we do our April report on where we are, that's when we'll start looking at, here's where we are. I anticipate a reduction in emissions, mainly because some of the things that we've done since 2015. But it could be that we need to ratchet up our actions. And that's when we'll address any edits. I know there is a blunder. It's a scaling error in our goals under the power sector. It's a great goal, but it's more than the entire state's capacity right now. So there's some things like that we'll fix. If you see things that you think we need to address, let me know. We'll take a look at it. Ms. Grayson has given us a marked up version of the plan with all the corrections she found. And so we will do it all at once. I don't anticipate doing annual updates to the plan. The plan is to do it every 2 to 3 years based on those changes in the greenhouse gas inventory. Next slide. If you want to see how we're doing globally, the city manager put us in his performance 365. Remember, not just a pretty plan. We want you to actually do stuff. And last year we were doing quarterly. This year we'll be doing monthly. That said, some of the ongoing actions, particularly in the water sector, are probably not going to be updated very often, just because it's an ongoing action. It's kind of hard to measure improvement on ongoing stuff. Next slide, please. But some of you are more detail oriented and really want to dive in and find out what we're doing. Our year one dashboard is there. It has the overall goals and the actions we're doing. We're in the process right now. I think it'll still be up for year one, but we're in the process of converting it to match the actions and milestones for our next year right now. Excuse me. And so stay tuned on that. Next slide. Somebody else asked about social media and marketing. One of our council members also asked us about that. And the reason being is there are a lot of actions in here relative to providing information on people on what they can do. And so we have committed to that council member that we will develop a social media marketing plan for CECAP. One of the other requests, and I'm not sure how we do it yet, but it's there and we'll figure it out, is to make sure that our site is bilingual. And so we will be developing a Spanish, either adding, there are some translators that you can add to your website, or just a parallel site in Spanish, so that those residents that are Spanish speaking can still participate and understand what it is that we're doing. And then we'll continue working with the region on, they've been doing a lot of great outreach relative to EVs, relative to solar as well. Next slide. So other cool stuff. So hot off the presses, and this may be something for my friends at Climate Reality. Thursday, the Texas A&M state climatologists put out a new assessment of historic and future trends on extreme weather. It is amazing and scary at the same time. There's only one thing that I disagreed with, and that is in the executive section of it, or executive summary. They indicated that Snowmageddon was a one-off. However, their data on extreme cold events show that it happens about every 10 years. So I suspect that was perhaps a political thing that they had to put in. But if you're interested, this is literally hot off the presses. A lot of really, really good information. And it really does support the need for us taking greater action now. The other thing is, about a month ago, I had a spectacularly bad day after a spectacularly bad week. And I was sitting there trying to figure out what I had to do over the weekend to get caught up. And this email popped up from it was from Dr. McPherson with OU, with their climate center, asking me to serve on the Southern Great Plains chapter of the National Climate Assessment. For those of you that don't know, this is a government effort that has been in place since 1990. Bush 1 actually signed the U.S. Global Change Act in 1990, requiring U.S. scientists to compile data on assessing climatic data and impacts on the U.S. And so they've done that. They've done 4 so far. Our CECAP was based on the 4th one. And I got asked to help with the 5th one, and that's just a really exciting thing. One of the things that I am particularly excited about this process is I'm meeting a whole lot of people that I think can help us locally. The other thing is that the 5th assessment is going to have a lot more emphasis on environmental equity and on incorporating in an appropriate way traditional environmental knowledge from Native Americans and other indigenous groups. And they want to do outreach on the plan as they develop it on what people are worried about. And so the initial draft will be coming out in the January, February timeframe. If you guys are amenable, I would love to bring it forward because I think it helps both us and this national effort. And so that's my other cool new stuff to share with you. With that, I'm open to questions.
Susan, what a fire hose of information. I mean, it's just
Welcome to my world.
unbelievable. what you've been up to this last year. I mean, it's just, there's so much. And then what you've put on your plate for the next year is just amazing. So we've had some great questions. They're in the chat. The first one is from Rob, and he's asking, does Dallas have, or could the city have, a net metering policy?
We do not have one yet. And it's a little interesting. Net metering usually is a lot more effective if you have a municipal electric company, and the city of Dallas does not. And so we have probably about 220 some retail electric providers. And I think that's the type of thing that probably needs to be done at a higher level than municipal. And there are municipalities in Texas that have those policies, but they also typically have their own electric utility, and we do not. So no, we don't have one yet. We are supportive of one. I've been reading in the listserv on the discussion on it. But it is not something that the city has direct authority or responsibility over. And so it's something that we've been watching what ERCOT is doing. We've been watching what the legislature's doing. We, of course, have people that can go and speak to things that may be beneficial or not. And we coordinate our actions with the other major Texas cities. But it's a little bit outside our realm right now.
Has there been any initiative in this regard with the business sector, as far as, they wanting to, be advocates of this type of initiative as well, and then to work with the cities such as City of Dallas to try to have a front with Encore and the power?
It's not Encore necessarily.
Okay.
It's more the local electric providers. Encore does the distribution,
right,
once it gets into the lines. So we do, and that reminds me something else that I left out of the presentation. We do have a city business climate alliance that we're working with several of the businesses locally on. And that's basically one of the things we found when we were developing the CECAP is a lot of our local businesses. I joined the Dallas 2030 district because I wanted to find out more what business was doing with those big shiny buildings with all the lights on downtown. And those big shiny buildings use artificial intelligence. They are metered to the hilt. They have special glass. They are really very well designed and very sustainably designed. And they have active goals to reduce their energy use by 50% by 2030. And so those, that was an eye opener. Again, it was another group I joined to learn more about the part of the world that I was in that I didn't understand. But a lot of the city businesses are way ahead of where the city of Dallas is on smart energy use and energy efficiency. And it's mostly they're coming at it from a bottom line. If they can, maybe they put in AI and they put in a bunch of meters and sensors and things on their system, but it saves money. And with that money saved, they can do some other things. And so a lot of them are looking at that way. And that was why we're actually one city of 8 internationally in the City Business Climate Alliance. It's a partnership with the C40 cities, the Carbon Disclosure Project, and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And that is one of the things that we're trying to do, is get what the larger businesses are doing, get that information out to our other businesses in the community, because they're not all in downtown Dallas. And so that's a program that we just started. The mayor kicked it off a couple months ago. We're getting into governance and that sort of thing moving forward.
Okay. So there's been a lot of questions regarding trees, but I'm going to present them as they were presented in the chat, if you don't mind. But
don't mind.
So there's a question regarding, can Dallas work with Encore or tell Encore to stop butchering the trees around power lines and things like that?
So I hate to be in a position of defending Encore on this because I hate what they do to the trees around the power lines. But that is based on state law that requires that trees be 10 foot away from power lines. And it's a safety thing from the wind events we have. I can tell them and they will tell me, oh, but it's state law, we have to. So I think it gets into the mantra that I get from my friends at Texas Trees, which is right tree, right place. Maybe we don't plant trees in or near power lines.
Okay. So what about the city doing as they maintain their roads and everything, that they start considering buried power lines versus keeping the overheads?
So I had a really interesting discussion on that. I think it is expensive, and I agree that power lines should be undergrounded. And as you look at newer subdivisions, you will see that they're putting it in underground. At some point, the post-storm cleanup and power restoration costs are going to be such that those costs wash out. We're not there yet. It is expensive to put it underground, but I do think it is a good idea, mainly because of the risk we have going forward of these straight line wind events, of the freezing events, of these weather events that tend to do a number on our power grid.
Yeah. So the next couple deal with electric landscape equipment. And basically, one is that the statement's being made that, electric landscape equipment's not good enough yet. Plus, it's very expensive. And so because it hasn't reached that, it shouldn't be mandated.
Well, that is one aspect. I know that one leaf blower generates as much emissions as, I believe it's a diesel Volkswagen. They are extremely prolific as far as generating emissions. It is a health impact to the people using that equipment, even though they may not know it. So the traditional two-stroke motor environmental equipment for landscaping is noisy. It has a lot of emissions. It has been banned in a lot of places. That said, in our pilot with our Parks Department, they piloted using electric equipment in 6 different districts. What staff came back with was that it was really heavy and that they had to recharge it every hour. And so it kind of impacted some of their ability to mow, blow, and go. And so there's some things like that we need to consider. The other thing is that if you go into any neighborhood, there's a whole lot of mom and pop landscape companies that's what they're doing on the side to make a little bit of extra money to help their family or make a living. I would be very worried about us coming up with a policy that adversely impacts those folks. And so if we do that, we're going to have to look at some things like, well, do we do an exchange? Do we give discounts? How do we implement it in a way where it's fair and maybe we phase it out over time. And that's one of those things I'm talking to my friends with other cities to find out how they're doing it, because we're not the only ones doing this. And we're not the only ones looking at it even in Texas. And so it's really helpful because that way too, when I take something forward to council and they say, well, what are other cities doing? You'd say, well, we talked to Austin, although we typically don't quote Austin because that's like it's not a good thing. I'll just put it that way. But we've talked with Houston, we've talked with Austin, here's what they're doing, El Paso's doing this. And so it's really helpful to be able to speak knowledgeably about what our partners in other cities are doing, so that we're cutting edge, not bleeding edge, as they say.
Yeah. So I got excited when you said exchange program, which is kind of like an incentive in a way. And that there's a cost associated with
Yeah.
that, but it is a transitional type of thing, and it does move everyone forward. So it's interesting that it's being discussed. So
Yeah.
So I have a question from Mellon, and he's asking, are there any comments on what's happening with the Naval Air Station redevelopment?
Actually, while we're still on the subject of air, of mowers and blowers, 30 minutes of a 2-cycle gasoline engine is the equivalent of 3,500 miles driven by a F-150 pickup. So, and I got documentation to prove it, or to
I don't disagree.
to support it. Anyway, so it's not a Volkswagen. Think
Oh, okay.
I think it's exciting that, Susan's made the comment that there's even the discussion going on, and they've done the pilot projects. And so the data coming out has, in my thinking has to be a positive thing to step forward. And so, if this, leadership is about leading. Leadership is about leading, and if they actually transition their landscaping crews and their park crews to go all electric, then everyone else is going to be seeing that, and that's a transitional, initiative that goes on. But anyway,
I don't know if anyone read my comment. My yard landscaper of 20 years quit or threatened to quit, and I accepted his resignation. When I bought electric equipment that was the equivalent of what he used, I mean, even a backpack unit, and he still declined to use it because it just was something they just weren't, it was alien to them. He'd rather go out and reach for a 5-gallon gasoline can than switch a battery. So it's a tough road to hoe.
Yeah, it's good. It's a change in behavior, definitely. So I'm moving on to the next question.
Thank you,
Ellen. Is about bikes, and we had the discussion on doing bike lanes and things like that. And so the concern here is that bikes do not belong on busy streets, and so the bike lanes should be isolated or separated in a way to protect.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that. And I think it gets into some things that we're looking at relative to traffic calming. We have some other challenges with traffic right now with people street racing. Katie is an avid cyclist. She rides her bike to work from where she lives. She's become pretty close to a hood ornament one too many times. And I would advocate separated bike lines just for safety. I think there's a lot of potential for that, and I think it would help with micromobility. What we're kind of looking at is we have a lot of roads that, those of you that know Jill Jordan, when she was at the city, she was talking about putting roads on a road diet. That road diet could very easily be a barricade because the little traffic cones don't really do much with a car, or a curb or something to physically separate the bike lanes from traffic. I think would be helpful, and that would be a way of providing good bike access in a safe way where the cyclists actually feel safe doing it. I know they've got bike lanes on Commerce. I could ride the 6 miles from my house to City Hall, except that Commerce is scary and it's a painted bike lane. And half the time there are people parked in the bike lane. So it's one of those things. I think it's coming. Having a couple of council members that ride bikes certainly helps. And they're pushing it. They're pushing it. So I think that is something that we would do, but I think there's also recognition that To make it safe for the cyclist, there needs to be some sort of physical separation.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, when I lived in Dallas County, I mean, I rode my bicycle a lot, and it became more and more dangerous as time went on. So out here in the country, it's a little different, and it's still dangerous. We don't have any sidewalks, so you can't even get on the sidewalk. It's even more dangerous. You had some discussion on bulk waste, and so they one of the thing is that they don't want you to reduce bulk waste collection. They feel that would be a reduction in service, and I kind of agree with that. Bulk waste is an important action for the city to do. Comments?
I will probably get in trouble with you for that one. I think our residents are spoiled. Most other cities provide it quarterly, not monthly, quarterly on demand once a year. I know from my own neighborhood, there are folks that abuse the policy that we have. And it's the same houses that have piles and piles of stuff blocking the sidewalk every month. I think if we separate the wood waste out, I think that's overall the largest volume of our bulk waste. I think if we do that and provide either on demand or quarterly on a regular basis, I think we're at a place where it is cost effective and effective. I mean, one of the reasons they implemented bulk waste was to try to reduce illicit dumping. We still have an illicit dumping problem, even though we pick up bulk waste every single stinking month. And so from a standpoint of efficiency in service and addressing the base issue, which is inappropriate dumping, I think that we have some opportunities to do the work we're doing better. And I don't think monthly bulk waste mixed in with the wood waste like we're doing right now is that. So we'll see how the pilots come out. We put the pilots in some of our more persnickety neighborhoods. So we should get good feedback on it. And you know, I know when I was having to deal with my mom's effects after she passed, the city of Tulsa was very nice, but very firm that they would come out once. And so that was once in a year, not once a month, not once a week, not anytime you feel like it. They would come out once to the service address to help. And they encouraged us to connect with other groups that might be able to use those materials rather than throwing them away. And I think that piece of it needs to be in there too. You know, are you throwing away things that other people can use?
Did we miss your comment on the? I saw James put a reference to the Naval Air Station. Did you want to make a comment on that or not really?
I am actually pretty excited about the work they are doing at the Naval Air Station. I am looking at it as, you know, one of the things that when we look at Dallas itself, it is not set up where you can live in Dallas without a car very easily. I think the Naval Air Station gives us an opportunity to look at how we do community development in a different way. I know that I made a road trip with one of our planning commissioners to Austin's Muller Airport to look at what they had done there. I envision the same thing could be done at Hensley Field, and that is to have grocery, to have medical, to have schools, houses, businesses, where you could live, work, and play in your neighborhood and not have to drive halfway across the city to a good paying job. And so I think it presents an enormous opportunity for the city to reimagine how we do development and how we shape our city. And so I'm excited about it. There is an option where they're looking at geothermal, surprise, surprise. When you look at geothermal for a 700-acre development, it's kind of pricey. I don't know that it makes sense to do it for the whole development like they've looked at it, but I give them kudos for thinking big. And maybe they don't do it for the whole development, but they do it for some of the key tenants in that development. So I think there's a whole lot of opportunity there.
There is. So it's an exciting project there, no doubt. But I think the geothermal concept is something like trying to recreate Iceland, where everything.
Well,
nice.
and we're not going to do the Icelandic type of geothermal
Right.
because
No, I
we
know
don't
that.
have geothermal. We don't have nice heated groundwater from volcanic sources that we can.
But that's the
put in a
concept, is
gallon.
that you're using the earth to heat and cool, whereas here
Right.
you have a heated source to begin with, and it's
Right.
not going away anytime soon. Okay, so let me keep going. Lissa made a statement, and that which a lot of people you had made mention to, about seeing huge piles of unbroken down cardboard boxes out for bulk trash pickup every month. And she said they should be broken down and placed in recycle bins, and that if they weren't broken down, they should be left behind. But
Usually the drivers they try, if it's in a way where they can easily pick it up quickly, they try to get it if it is broken down. They will leave it behind if it's not something they can do quickly.
Okay. There's a great question from Grace Darling, and she said, does CECAP include communication technologies? Thinking of
No,
low cost,
it does
free
not.
citywide. Yeah, and she's thinking of low cost, free citywide Wi-Fi.
So we are looking at that, but not under the context of CECAP. Some of the work that our equity office is doing, and it began during COVID, and it is where we're using a bunch of our Rescue Act funding, is along smart corridors. They've set up Wi-Fi at a lot of the schools and libraries. So we're working on it, but not in the context of a climate plan. They're working on it more along the context of community development and equity. So it's in the mix, just not part of this plan. I think economic development is doing a lot of it as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you for asking that question, Grace.
No, it's a great question. And it is something the city's working on, just not as a part of the efforts we're doing in our office.
And I know, the DART has often thought about it, but they haven't really implemented anything as far as Wi-Fi at their stations, like for checking on things, recharging your phone, things like that.
And then like the library has hotspots now that you can check out. And that started during COVID because we realized we had a lot of students that were trying to keep up with their schoolwork, but we're in a digital divide. Mm-hmm. And so with hotspots, that helps them to be able to keep up with schoolwork. I think if I remember right, we have a low income internet service or subscription. There's a program, because I saw something recently on it, where if you are within a certain income range, there was Wi-Fi that could be provided. And again, it's to try, particularly if you've got students, it's to try to help broach that divide, because we know it exists.
You raise a great point. Is that an advertised program out there? I mean, for the LMI communities, in case?
Not well advertised. I saw it in a city newsletter. I'd be happy to share the information. I can dig it up and send it to you if that would be helpful.
Yeah, we'd love
that would help get the word out. I don't think it's very well advertised, but I've seen it.
Is it funded? I mean, is it pretty well funded, or is it?
It's funded out of ARPA. That's what we're using our American Rescue Act funding for.
Okay,
We got quite a bit of money. They're trying to use some of it to address some of the longstanding social challenges we have. Again, rescuing. And even though the funding coming out is building back better, all along we've been looking at, okay, we physically shut everything down. Things are different. How do we use that change to implement beneficial change going forward? In other words, we've got a big disruption. Things are going to be different anyway. How can we make them different and better?
yeah,
And so that's the American Rescue Act funding is being used by the city of Dallas to address a lot of these things like digital divide, like quite a bit is going to streetlights, LED streetlights in areas where we have higher than optimal prime.
are those solar, or are they still tied into the grid?
I don't
Just
know.
because you're changing the LED, is it?
I think they're just changing the LED. I don't think they're going solar
Well, you're
yet.
saving a lot of energy that way, but it'd be great if they were solar, because then you wouldn't have to, now you free up that electricity for other things like air conditioning in the afternoon.
Hey, Susan, I'm
Yes.
assuming that the city is also working with the school districts and the colleges on the providing the service for students.
Yes,
For the
they
online
are.
community.
And that's where it came from. It was a, how do we work together on this? This is a challenge. Oh,
So
thank you,
I want to
James.
remind everyone that the chat, the comments and the questions, but some of the links that James and others are providing are great links and resources. You can copy that chat. You can download it and it'll go to your desktop,
Yeah.
you know, however you save it. So if you don't know how to do that, it's at the bottom of the chat. There's a smiley face, and then there's 3 little buttons. And so if you click on the buttons, it'll pull a drop-down menu and you can save the chat. All right. So please do that right at the end. I'll probably throw another reminder out there. I apologize, Susan. You've been so gracious answering these questions. Molly, again, she just wanted to reemphasize about electric landscape equipment. She's been using an electric and a real mower since 1990. I've been using electric lawnmowers since they've been available. So they're out there, it's just the technology's there. It's become reasonable. You can now use the same type of battery pack for multiple different types of equipment. In the past, you couldn't do that. And so, you were stuck. In the past, you were held hostage by the electric cord in the very early days. And now you're mobile and you can get around. So yeah, I mean, we need to move there for sure. Kenny Eschery, I hope I pronounced that right, Kenny, he's got a great comment about bicycling. And what that is he has difficulty crossing the highway. So what are the city's plans? And okay, we got the bike lanes, but how do you get from one side of the highway to the other side of the highway if you have to cross the street? Is there going to be anything for that?
I would say thoughts and prayers. I don't know. That's a great question. That's something that my friends in planning and transportation no doubt have looked at. It's a great question. I don't have an answer for it. I'm happy to dig around and find out how they address that, but
Well, I know
typically it's a street light that stops traffic so you can cross it safely. And even then, there's going to be some special person that doesn't feel like stopping. And I know because I've been there.
Yeah. And
Michael.
then there's the timing, Yes, ma'am.
I want to take a point of personal privilege and welcome Kenny Eckberry to our meeting. He is one of our intern applicants.
Oh,
Young
awesome.
person.
Yeah, welcome. We're excited to have you. All right. So, you were talking about food and food deserts and healthy food and everything like this. And Lisa makes a Melissa makes a really great comment in regards to, we have a great event going on right now. It's called the State Fair. And you know what they have? They have a
Fried
contest.
everything.
They have a contest of what's the newest and the best fried foods. And so you think about healthy food. And so, you know, why couldn't they have what was the best, you know, ice cream flavor or, you know, something, but they do fry. So she says, hey, let's have less fried food.
Well, I will tell you that the city has a booth at the Discovery Gardens at the State Fair. One of our other partners and one of your partners, actually Restoration Farms, has, they have a facility there with combined environment agriculture. It's indoors. It's fabulous. It's really cool. And then they have what looks like from the outside to be a nondescript trucking container, but inside it's what they call Growzilla. My slide on food has a picture of it. And they're using it to teach kids and formerly incarcerated folks how to do high-tech farming. And they're growing quite a bit of food in that container using grow lights and that technology. So if you're there and you can wander by, there's a lot of good on the healthy food front that most people, it's under the big Ferris wheel. And they've got an indoor, basically a greenhouse, but it's all with hydroponics. And then the Growzilla, as they call their trucking container, you go inside and it's kind of cosmic because it's like this lovely pink purple color inside. And they're growing all kinds of Asian vegetables, not just the normal leafy greens that you see with aquaponics. So they're doing a lot of research. They're doing a lot of good work under the shadow of the Ferris wheel at the State Fair. Yeah. And they're not frying it.
Well, you know, they have another, they've always had one over on the agricultural section, which is a section you go through and, you know, you can look at the honeybees and all the agricultural products that are done in the state of Texas. It's a big, you know, separate type of display there too. So you can learn about what's going on in Texas. Yeah, the State Fair is a great event. So when you started talking about trees, of course, there's a lot of discussion on trees. And so, you know, Lessa said encouraging planting trees with ground cover with low water requirements could help reduce the need for lawnmowers and help with the urban heat island effect.
Yep.
So, and then Mellon made a comment regarding tree planting on city property. He had made a suggestion about planting a tree, and the city park said the trees must have irrigation and not rely on rainfall. So, yeah,
and that gets into us moving forward with an urban canopy management plan that is a challenge. Particularly as, you know, when we are talking to people about different modes of transportation, we got very clear feedback that more people would ride transit or bikes or walk if our roadways where they wanted to go were more pedestrian friendly, were cooler, were shady. And so that's great, except when you talk to my friends, the engineers in public works, they're like, oh, but we've got utilities down there. Oh, but trees will tear up the sidewalk. Oh, well, we'll have to take care of those trees. So there's some competing choices within the city right away. And I completely agree that street trees make a street more friendly, make it easier, cooler to walk, help with the air quality, help actually even with public health. But I also understand that there are some ongoing management things. Remember I said we have some policy things coming forward. Policy on street trees is a big one. Our public works department has a street tree program, but when we talked to them about the measures in the urban forest master plan, to be brutally honest, they weren't excited about adding more trees, because that was going to be more work they were going to have to do down the road. And this is the same group that was going to clear out some 200 old growth trees in Kessler to put in a nature trail. One does not do that sort of thing easily in Kessler. The neighbors came
No.
unglued.
Yeah.
And so they moved it and are doing it in a way where they're not taking out the trees. But that was something where I kind of sort of got myself in some trouble, because I was coming up with ways of doing it without taking out the trees.
Well, they just had to follow the Audubon's lead in South Dallas County in Duncanville. They have that running trail through the hills of the trees there. They didn't cut down any trees. Now they
No, you can do it. You just have to think about what you're doing. So
Yeah.
it's
If no one's
doable.
been down there, that's a great resource, by the way. The last one was from Mary Ann dealing with trees again. And what she makes a comment about is that a smaller tree trunk size diameter would be a beneficial landscape requirement change. So I think when you need a 4-inch caliper tree or larger to put in place, that the roots are wrapped, and that ultimately, leads to the failure of the tree over time because it's wrapped. The roots may never be able to get out in a sidewalk environment, that type of thing, depending on where you're planting trees. It's just an interesting comment about the size of trees and things. But I do, the issue, we have mixed emotions about trees, because if you have trees, it limits your ability to put solar out there, right? I mean, but so trees are beneficial as far as when you do a passive designed house, it provides shading and a cooling, from the western sun in the late afternoon in Texas. That's a benefit. It reduces your electric load and everything. But then, the shading is not a friend to solar. All right. So we're moving on. I have no other questions. Does anyone ever have any other questions that they would like to ask Susan directly? If not, I'm going to turn it back to Rosa. And thank you, Susan, so
Sure.
much for your presentation today. We look forward to having you back next year to bring us up to date.
Michael, there
Thanks.
is actually a few more questions
Oh, okay.
on the chat. One of which is, I think Susan's already answered it, but Dharma was asking whether Dallas County residents were also considered for membership in that commissioners group that Susan mentioned. And I think she said you have to be a Dallas resident. Am I wrong, Susan?
No, you're correct. That comes from our charter related to boards and commissions. So if you're in a board or commission where you're voting on policy that has fiscal implications, they want the members to be residents of the city of Dallas. That is one of the reasons that we implemented a technical resource panel, is so that some of the folks that have advised all along to develop the CECAP that don't live in Dallas can still help. So the technical resource panel includes opportunities for people that live outside of the city of Dallas to kind of help guide things forward. So we do have them there, but that comes from our city charter.
There's another question from Rob asking the distinction between bulk trash and green and yard debris, and asking whether bulk green debris would still be picked up monthly, depending on how the city changes.
That decision hasn't been made yet, and it's not one that I will make. That'll come from a policy recommendation from the sanitation department based on these pilots they're doing. And then council will make that determination moving forward.
Let's see.
You're doing good there, Rosa. I did miss a couple. So yeah, there's a question Oh, you did answer that in regards to the crepe myrtle.
Yeah, crepe myrtles they're pretty. Folks that do environmental work are not real excited about them because they tend towards being a monoculture, and they tend towards to not provide great habitat. One of the things I learned when we were developing the urban forest master plan, however, is that they do have one of the highest rates of carbon sequestration, which is something I didn't know. So I'm like, oh, so they're not totally worthless. Okay. I think that's mainly because they're multi-trunked typically. So a little more room for sequestering carbon, I guess. I don't know, but.
Yeah, okay.
Those are all the questions I saw on the chat. And I guess following Michael's lead, if anybody has a question that's just burning to get out, please go ahead and ask it now.
Can you
Unmute
mention,
yourself.
I'll have one closing question, and it deals with the Metroplex overall. What other cities have are following your lead as far as trying to do a CECAP type of program?
So we
Fort Worth or
actually quite a few. When we realized that Dallas couldn't go it alone, we got together with Plano, Farmers Branch, Louisville, Fort Worth. Garland is one that is doing it, but they can't say the C word. But their folks have been in on the planning. Arlington comes sometimes. With RISE, we've tried to make it where anyone can contribute because we really want to help the other local cities towards doing it. So they don't necessarily have to be dues paying members of the RISE group to participate, but there are 9 cities locally that are working on both individual climate plans and on this regional effort.
So we had a special request from Jennifer Lane to you and said, please do everything you can to influence Denton County.
Well, my former boss that was director for 6 months just went up to City of Denton to be director of their sustainability department. That's not Denton County, but he will be up there. So I wish them luck. Yeah, it's interesting. Denton's got the university there, and you've got kind of an odd dichotomy of folks that are pretty progressive and folks that are really not. So it's an interesting mix.
Do you know if the city of Allen is doing anything?
They are not.
Wow.
For
There's an
because
opportunity.
they just don't even care, or they haven't.
Just
no
the
one's been
opposite
pushing
of
for it?
not caring.
There just hasn't been enough resident pushback as far as why aren't you doing something? Or...
That's an area where you've got rules relative to not putting solar on your rooftop because it
doesn't look right.
Yeah, they're and that's one of the things that's going to be interesting as we get into updating the development codes, because that's typically a regional effort. It's going to be a challenge because we're going to have to build some consensus on this is the right thing to do. I am hopeful that the recent climatology report, which if you look at it is downright scary, will help. But it's science, and not everybody believes in science right now.
With that, I want to thank Susan for her terrific presentation. Thank you so much for sharing such a terrific breadth of areas that you covered. There's so much there that it will take quite a while for us to all catch up. Thank you, Susan. Let's give Susan a big round of applause, everybody. Thank you so much. And then for next month, Georgianne Moss from Dallas College will be making a presentation to us. She's the Senior Director of Sustainability for Dallas College. She's gonna be making a presentation on all the activities that Dallas College has ongoing for their sustainability efforts. Please join us again next month on November 13th. And thank you all very much for participating. And again, thank you, Susan, for your presentation. We appreciate you being here. Thank you much. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you
Thank you.
everyone for joining us today.